Blog Talk Radio.
Greetings, and salutations. Happy holidays. Happy Kwanzaa. Welcome to another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Transformation, divine, all blessed transformation. We're going to talk about transformation magic. Come on in. All is a blessing. All is a blessing. Ashe. 845-277-9143. 845-277-9143. If you want to get on the phone with me, call me now. 845-277-9143. All is a blessing. Greetings and salutations. Welcome. Happy holidays.
To Africa, she's calling your name to win. Come back home to Africa, the fatted calf and golden ring.
I'm waiting for you once again. Greetings, welcome, greetings. Come on in, don't be shy. Come on in. Come one, come all. Come on in. All is a blessing. Welcome this first day of Kwanzaa. Come on in. All is a blessing. Greetings.
Come back home to Africa. She's calling your name to win. Come back home to Africa. The fatted calf and golden ring. I'm waiting for you once again. Coming back to you. I'm longing for my family.
Coming back to you. Out of bondage and now I am free. Da. Greetings, beloved. Greetings. All is a blessing. Greetings. Happy holidays. Some of y'all went into the eggnog this morning. all is a blessing. Welcome. Joy and prosperity. Come on in, Alaska. Come on in, Canada. Come on in, South Africa. Indonesia. Welcome, beloved. Nigeria. Niger, Cameroon. Come on in. Ghana. Come on in. South America, welcome. Greetings and salutations. Italy, greetings and salutations. Welcome. Austria, welcome. Thank you so much. Germany, thank you so much. Welcome. We will be forward momentarily. All is a blessing. Yes. Habargani. Greetings, divine, all blessed. Peace and love, joy and prosperity, elevation, revelations, and transformation. Indeed, the question of the day is Habargani. And those who know and understand and operate within the celebration of Kwanzaa know the response is always the principle of the day. It's always the principle of the day. So we say Habargani, and your response will be Emoja, which means unity, divine, all blessed unity. You are listening now live again to the Divine Prince, Pan-African spiritualist, practitioner, author, and advisor, Elagun Oloye Hoodoo Obeya Bokur, sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, evolutionary, revolutionary, healing, and transformative from a Pan-African Hoodoo world spiritualist perspective. Understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing. If you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test of one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. This is my constant prayer, my mantra, affirmation, my reverberation, my reiteration, and it is indeed my ever-living reality. All is a blessing is indeed crucial to the very foundation of my understanding, my walk, my teaching, my work along this divine, all blessed life path and journey. And it is how I, the Divine Prince, make sense out of all that we're challenged with here in our daily existence on Mother, Father, Earth. And it is my personal place of power and understanding, the place from where I begin, the place from where I realize and crystallize all my endeavors, understanding that I and I alone create and co-create my divine destiny, and I alone create and co-create my divine, all blessed reality. And so it is. Ashe, Asheo. I greet you again, Habargani, this first day of the celebration of Kwanzaa. I greet you in Emoja, divine, all blessed unity. And I'm emanating and vibrating, of course, with you now, live, virtually, verbally, cosmically, quantum, universally, from this working temple of the House of the Divine Prince, Thai Potions, Hoodoo Central, in this legendary, historic, beautiful, most enchanted, and some would say most haunted city in America, New Orleans, Louisiana, the land of my ancestors and those who came before me along this Hoodoo Obeya path and journey, passing down the great Obeah stick along with the knowledge of the life-giving herbs, roots, plants, rituals, spirits, minerals, indeed the legacy, culture, and traditions, our sacred stories, as my beloved Denise Augustine would say. And please remember to book your tours plus experience with us at www.oursacredstories.com. All is truly and indeed a blessing. I'm honored each and every time I have an opportunity to come before you live in this format and share my life, share my experience, share my journey. And I'm always humbled when I get the feedback from those of you who certainly appreciate and support my doing so. I'm internally grateful. I'm always honored by those who show up live, my co-hosts who show up live here on the phone lines at 845-277-9143. And of course, those who pop in on screen here with us during the live airing broadcast. And I'm grateful for my chat participants. Greetings, Neophyte Bokur. Welcome, Black in America. Greetings and salutations to K-Way and S. Marie. Thank you so much for being with us. JP Terrell, welcome, beloved. Thank you so much for stepping into the room. All Marie Jackson, thank you. Eva Arisha, and of course, the beloved Chef Bougie, welcome, and thank you so much for your consistent presence and support. Uja Wajet, thank you so much. Hotep Wu, thank you so much for being present. Greetings to each and everyone who would be here. For some of us, it's just another day. For others, it's an extension of a holiday, a universal holiday, a national holiday. For others, we're completely on a whole nother calendar. And we're still acknowledging the rise above the horizon of the sun and the reemergence of the sun, SUN, in the northern hemisphere as we move towards, again, coming out of the winter into the spring and summer months. But I wanted to talk today, particularly today, about transformative or transformation magic. Transformation magic. Transforming, just at its most basic nature, can be applied to many things in our life, ourselves, our relationships, our career path and journey, our sense of health and wellness, if you will. So we can discuss and cover a myriad, a larger range, if you will, of topics when we just look at transformation at its most basic nature. But when we say transformation magic, we now suggest something that we can do, that we can push, that we can change, that we can ritualize, that we can move our ideas forward in the world, in life. And indeed, I teach and I share that the divine creators would have us to create and co-create a reality that mirrors our best image. Indeed, we are co-creators with God. I and I are root, it is said in Rastafari, for indeed we are a clay physical manifestation of God. And so we like to say, as the mother, so too as the child. We like to say, as the father, so too is the child. So our abilities to create and recreate a reality that mirrors our image are often played down, overlooked, misused and abused, harnessed, if you will, for much larger goals, much larger platforms that often we aren't even conscious of. The game, the monopoly, the chessboard activity that we have become a part of. So we live in a day and time where many people are seeking to separate themselves, to break away from, to transform, to change, no longer view God quite in the same way, no longer view religion quite in the same way, and particularly organized religion, no longer view society quite in the same way. And we live in a unique time period in the world. No matter where you are in my listening audience in the world, I acknowledge, and I should acknowledge more, that we have an international audience. There are people present with us right now who don't chat, who don't call in, but are listening, are participating through email, through other means, to our demonstration here. And they're not just in the US. They're not just from English-speaking nations. I'm often amazed by the non-English speaking audience that I have, and what they might be gaining from the show. So I think about it, I meditate on it, because that which is universal, that which helps the one, helps the whole. That which can save the one saves the whole. And so indeed, if it's helpful and beneficial for me, then there's that aspect of reality that suggests that it will be helpful and useful for the next person. But that does not always mean they speak our language, that they are from our continent, that they exist in our universe. And so sometimes in our discussion here in the chat, we keep it very Western sometimes. We got UK audience that participates, we got American audience that participates, English speaking practitioners. But let us not, and particularly during this season of harvest, this season of winter solstice, this season of holidays, let us not overlook ancestral connection to whatever we might do, even going into transformative magic. It's much easier for us to envision the family of carpenters, the family of woodworkers, the family of plumbers, which was a historic tradition here in the city of New Orleans, when certain families would access a level of education, a level of knowledge, a level of skill. They shared that in their family. They shared that intergenerationally. And therefore, we had families of plumbers, families of woodworkers, families of architects, families of attorneys, families of educators. And so when we look at ATR and particularly magic from an ATR perspective, we never can overlook ancestral connection. And that reminds us to pay attention to the village. I got a phone call earlier today from a longtime godchild. If I went to brag or sell my ministry, I would push Brother Chisholm up to the front of the stage right now. And he wouldn't mind me sharing. This is a brother I met before he went to jail, after he got out of jail, as he, bounced and relapsed and rebounced again. We stood there together. So I've known this guy well over 10 years, I would say. And now he has a family and children, and things are indeed going well for him. But he called me earlier today, and that was one of the main topics we talked about, was how this translates into community. First self, but then community. And so in the idea of transformative magic, we often come thinking of self first. And that's not always a bad thing when it's being done from a healthy perspective. Self, in that I take responsibility for self. I take responsibility for what I do. I take responsibility for what I might need. I take responsibility for seeking a solution to what I need. It's not always about getting caught up in the dirty stuff, of family and lineage and generational curse, and of course, all the things that we indeed confront on a daily basis, because you can never master transformative magic if you're such a hardcore realist that you can't get out of your head and get into your head. If you can't get out of your physical consciousness and get into your spiritual consciousness, this indeed requires third eye activation. In English, this indeed requires the ability to utilize your imagination and utilize it to create and recreate the reality that mirrors your best interest. I posted on Instagram, I don't know, in the last 24 hours, quite a popular post, a little bit more popular than I thought it was going to be, of a doorway. And along with the doorway is a mantra. And I suggest that we find a way, wherever you are, to create sacred space. And indeed, sacred space must be created within before we can expect it on the outside. It's okay that candles and incense and floor washes and setups and all that's great. But if you can't create sacred space first inwardly, none of what you're doing out here is going to carry a lot of weight. So sacred space must first begin from within. And the particular exercise that I offered was, I didn't use a whole lot of going into the new year. I didn't use a whole lot of, that typical language that we use as we approach New Year's. But I suggested that you find a way to sit quietly, sit still, always remembering to breathe, always remembering to breathe. And then in the quietness of your consciousness, close your eyes. Some of you see light, some of you see darkness. That's irrelevant to my point, because out of the darkness comes the light. Out of the light, we can create and recreate a reality that mirrors our best interests. So I just asked you to envision the door. Just envision the door. And then open the door. And on the other side of the door, create in your mind, use your imagination if you must. Imagine it until it becomes crystal clear in your consciousness. And the more you do this, if you set 15 minutes a day to do this, a few times a day to do this, the easier this exercise comes for you, the more readily you're able to pull forward the imagery that you need in this moment. And that absolutely retranslates back into waking state reality. The ability to change your reality no matter what the weather, the ability to crystallize and be clear about where you're going no matter what distractions might be along the highway, might be along the road of life. If you can't crystallize it in your consciousness, which practitioner, healer, therapist, if you can't crystallize it first in your own consciousness, we can't expect the physical world to manifest that which we can't crystallize, that which we can't see clearly, that which we can't define clearly in our own consciousness, in our own heads. So the idea of transformation magic is first about transforming the mind, first transforming the mind. And then with that comes the outward manifestations, transforming your physical reality. That might be your body shape, that might be your environment, where you live, how you live, but it's first got to begin from within. It's got to first begin with I am. I am God. I am co-creator with God. I am in control. I am in responsibility for. I am in authority and stewardship for. Self, because we can't always control what's going on out here, but we can control self. And with that, we create a space, a sacred space, a magical space for magical outcomes and realities to manifest. Because we are creators, co-creators with the Most High. We are co-creators with the universal concept for God. I don't mean the individual ideas that people like to put on God, but from a more indigenous, universal perspective. The idea that we create and recreate our reality is old as humanity. And so sometimes we have to go back in order to move forward. Sometimes we have to revert back to childhood-like imagination in order to see forward with great wisdom and clarity into the future. There's a saying somewhere that if we can remain like a child, but that idea is about spirit. It's about being able to tap imagination, being able to tap the creative force, the creative power, in order to then bring that into your mature demonstration, your mature manifestation. I come from a hard background. Some of you already know it. Some of you, this might be your first time hearing me, your first time seeing and experiencing me, but I come from a hard background. It is said that I don't talk about my background enough, that people would better understand the power of this voodoo if you really understood where I'm coming from, what I've come through, what I'm often up against. Even today, there would be forces that would have me to not be here. There would be forces that would have me to not be present. There are forces that would have me to not present this information, to not present this connection to something so powerful, so ancient. There would be forces that would have me to be homeless and on the street. But it is indeed the power of the ancestors, the power of the voodoo that I give any credit to, that I give any thanks to. And so indeed my mantra, one of my mantras is all is a blessing, but another of my main mantras is respect the voodoo. Respect the voodoo. Ancestors see you, ancestors see me, ancestors see all. It's interesting how, and let's be clear, if you've called and called and called and called and called and ignored my voicemail, I'm not interested in responding to you. And after you've done it 3 days, 5 days, a week, 2 weeks, you've already ensured that I'm not going to be available to you. So the idea that you called in the middle of the show every day, and I'm speaking to a very specific person. I'm not going to call your number out or your area code out. I'm not going to respond to you. You've already demonstrated that you have no respect of my time. I posted that sometime in the last week. If you don't honor your time, your space, your power, why should anybody else? Why would anyone else? And so we must first honor what's sacred, what's God in us, which includes our time, our space, our energy, and then set up clear protocols first for ourselves. First for ourselves, because no one's going to adhere to a protocol that even you yourself don't acknowledge. What sense would it make for me to request that everyone remove their shoes before coming into the house if I don't remove my shoes while I'm in the house? Why would someone acknowledge you at that point? So in transformation magic, we have to not only remember to breathe, not only remember to create and set sacred space, but then set a clear protocol for ourselves in moving forward. In that space, again, as I suggested a little bit earlier, we could be talking about career and education, finance, health, wellness, love and relationships, our relationships with and to, our children, our parents, our relatives. That there are anything that the human condition might confront can be an opportunity for transformative energy, an opportunity to transform things to be more in line with your best image. Now again, that doesn't mean that people are going to mimic you. That doesn't mean that I'm required to be you. You're not no more required to be me. Doesn't mean I can control my mother. Doesn't mean I can control my dad any more than I can control you. But indeed, that which is in line with the divine order of things can be stopped, can't be blocked, cannot be prevented. That which is in line with your best demonstration cannot be blocked, cannot be limited by anything or anyone outside of ourselves. And so after you've created that inner space, you got to drink clean water. You got to nurture the body. We don't talk enough about what we eat. And right now might not be the best time for some of us to talk about and discuss, what we eat. But this has to be a routine. This has to be a lifestyle. This has to be a way of being. It's not just a quick magical fix. This indeed has to be supported by the practitioner. And the practitioner has to support themselves, has to support the body, has to support the mind. That energy, that ashe, then goes into your work, then goes into your ceremony, then goes into your ministry and the application thereof. So sometimes when we have disorder in our physical realities, there might be a disorder in our inner realities. There might be some imbalance inward that we are not looking at. And that's where shadow work comes up. That's where light work comes up. Again, I like to reference my Instagram, Divine Prince Tiameka. That's my username on Instagram, Divine Prince Tiameka, one word. Just like it is on the screen, Divine Prince Tiameka, except one word. I shared light work and I shared shadow work. Because shadow work right now is real popular, at least in conversation. Shadow work is real popular, and people have a lot of questions about what shadow work is and how to operate in shadow work. And indeed, it is that which exists in the shadows, that which we choose not to see, that which we might be in denial of seeing, that which we might not know even exists to be seen. All of that exists in our shadow work. We also do light work. And so the idea of transformative magic has to incorporate one, the other, if not both, in accomplishing that which you might be seeking to do as it relates to your shadow work demonstration. So I use a lot of mantras also in my ministry and in this type of work. And the simpler your mantra, the less words you use, all is a blessing, respect the voodoo. It does two things. It at least open a doorway for growth, for expansion, for transformation. But it also limits the opportunity for distractions to come into play when it comes to creating a mantra. You also don't want to create a mantra that has any doubtful words in it. You want to use words that are in the present. You want to use words that are active, that move your energy, your request forward. Healing lives here is a mantra that I offered on yesterday. And mantras are often as many times a day. Forgive me, let me say that again. You want to say these mantras as often and as many times a day as you can. I find it to be even more powerful and effective when you write down a mantra a few hundred times with pen, paper, you know, to not only help you to remember and ingrain the mantra into your own faculties, but to then crystallize that mantra. So writing it down on paper is a great booster to just saying your mantra. And the newly created mantra, you want to say it as many times as possible, particularly in those first 24, 48 hours, 72 hours. You want to say the mantra as much as possible. So let's say the third mantra, the first will be all is a blessing. The second will be respect the voodoo. Uh, let's make the third healing lives here. Healing lives here. So you always remember to breathe and to breathe again. You want to drink more water. You want to eat healthy foods because health is wealth. Health is wealth. There is no wealth if you're sick, shut in, not able to function, not able to move. So health is wealth. And then have a vision of light beyond whatever your darkness. And particularly right now, you don't have to admit it. You don't have to raise your hand. We acknowledge your presence in the spirit realm. Everybody's not happy about the holidays. Everybody's not happy about Christmas and New Year's here in the Western world, where it is made to seem, if you turn on your TV or your internet, if you ain't got a man, or a family and children and huge house, and boxes and gifts, you're made to feel somehow less than, and particularly in this season. And so for people who are challenged with shadow work, this could be a difficult time right now. So it's okay. If you're not feeling okay, it's okay. It's okay to not feel okay. It's okay sometimes to separate yourself from others. It's okay to not speak directly to toxic family members. It's okay if you don't feel like talking and you just want to remain quiet during this time. It's okay if you need to talk to someone. It's okay if you need to seek a therapist. It's okay if you need to seek an empowering spiritualist who's going to give you some work to do to sort of deal with these feelings and these emotions. It's not necessary to be jolly and happy, for that is not reality. That's not reality. We're not all happy all the time. We're not all satisfied all the time. For indeed, without that, there would be no impetus to get up and achieve a goal, to move forward. If we only had sun and no rain, if we only had light and indeed no darkness. So in transformation magic, we look at, lighting incense, burning candles, offering libations to the ancestors and to the creators, creating sacred space, remembering to be still, to be quiet, to breathe, to drink good water, clean water, to eat healthy, nutritious food, and then to have a vision of light of light. I don't care how bad the present moment might look, might feel, might seem. I've been there. I've been there. I've had suicidal Christmases. I've had depressive Christmases. I've had isolated Christmases. You know, in a half a century of life, I've had challenged holiday seasons. So you have to have a vision, even in the darkness, even if you must use your imagination, you must be able to see beyond the present. You must have a goal to move towards. And so you open that door and then you create in that space the reality. See yourself in a better condition. See yourself where you wish to be. See yourself where you desire to be. And be realistic. Be realistic. But see yourself in the clearest, most defined way possible. And the more you do this exercise, the greater the ashe. In Yoruba, we call that magical, spiritual energy ashe. Ashe is more than just amen. Ashe is more than just thank you. Ashe is a power, a co-shared power that those who understand and believe and operate in the tradition, we share that. We add to it. We confer it upon. It's not personally owned by anybody. It's not personally controlled by anybody. But we feed Ashe through our activity, through our ritual activity, but also through our belief, through what we say, through what we think repeatedly. Because sometimes in your silence, because I've been there, you're repeating negative things. You're repeating negative mantras. You're repeating negative experiences. You're repeating the details of what you don't want. You got to shut that down. And at some point, separate yourself long enough to get clear about what it is that you do want, how you wish to see yourself moving forward. And then we begin transformative magic, life-changing magic. I've seen it, I've experienced it, I've witnessed it. Powerful magic. And respect the voodoo. Respect the ancestors. Ancestors see you. Ancestors see me. Ancestors see all. There is no prayer that goes unheard. I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about Islam or Christianity. I'm talking about prayer. There is no fervent prayer that goes unheard by the creators. None. For indeed, the creators are present in all things. The ancestors are indeed present in us and stand up in that DNA strand that sometimes we call Jacob's ladder. But the creators and God exist in everything. So there's no separation from God is an illusion. You've been brainwashed. Separation from God is an illusion. Separation from the divine creators is an illusion. I and I, we create. I create and recreate my reality. I am an extension of, I am an expression of. These are all mantras, by the way. You can tell you are welcome to borrow, to take, to copy and paste from any of these mantras that are pouring out of my mouth right now. For the saying of I am a co-creator with God. You say that enough times, you say it until you believe it, you say it until you understand it, then the universe has to respond. That's a universal law. That's not some hokey witchcraft. That's a universal law. The universe has to then respond. You carry yourself like a queen. You demonstrate king-like demonstration. It has to come back to you. It has to come back to you. And no man, woman, child, or devil can block it or stop it. I am because my creators are. I am because my creators are more powerful, more knowledgeable, more infinite than any kind of weather, than any kind of carnal, than anything the devil, the jinn, the jab might seek to create or recreate. It is an illusion. It is indeed an illusion. And we have the opportunity, we have the power to create and recreate. Now, you know, sometimes it's about economics. Sometimes it's about, well, I can't afford and I don't have access to. And so I try to keep things here real simple. My godchildren will tell you I'm not quite this simple off air. I get real complicated and detail oriented when I'm doing real instruction. But I try to keep things universal. I try to keep things simple here. Breathe. Air should be accessible to us all. Clean air should be accessible to us all. Water, clean water should be accessible to us all. But I'm not ignorant. I have people in various parts of the world, and I know where clean water is not readily accessible. But indeed, clean water, healthy, clean foods, and then doing your shadow work. Being willing to do the shadow work and the light work. Okay, I hear you. What is shadow work? Be more specific about shadow work. Okay, what's the block? These are questions. What's the block? What's the problem? What is giving you pain? What makes you feel hurt? These are questions you ask when you're doing shadow work. So it might be, you know, you're at that family event that you really didn't want to be at, you know, or you're not at the family event and people are in their feelings about you not being there, you know, whatever the thing is, whatever presents to you the illusion of a problem. And then you start asking these questions of yourself. Why are you angry? Why are you upset? Why do you feel discomfort in this environment around these people? And be willing to be honest with yourself. Because see, that's the thing with shadow work. You don't necessarily have, you know, a guide standing over you, you know, to help you to filter your own truth. So you got to be willing to, at least with yourself, be truthful about what gives you pain, what gives you discomfort. Marge Richard, Leanne, yeah, water is one of the most powerful tools we have is water. and crystal, quartz crystal is, you know, a hairline fracture away from solidified water to some degree. And this same silicon dioxide combination also exists physically within the body. So we have a unique connection to water. All physical, organic, carbon life, we have a unique connection to water. And of course, your atoms and molecules and cells that exist throughout nature needs water. Even our wood, you know, to either have existed, evolved, and to continue to evolve. So in terms of magic, transformation magic requires water on many levels. Some of you over the months, over the years have seen me whisper into my water, speak into my water even before I drink it. And I treat water much like I do a crystal, as a liquid crystal that holds a charge, that holds a vibration, and we then take that in. I remember back in the day, you weren't allowed to, you know, when you're sitting at the table, we would eat together, and that also helped to prevent us from doing negative things, talking about negative things, projecting negative energies while we are eating. You want to be in a calm state. You want to be in a centered state. You might want to be thinking about healthy things as you eat. It's not good to eat on the fly, eat on the rush, eat under stress. You know, it's not, I can't. If I'm too worked up, I can't eat. I have to be able to be still, be quiet for a moment and clear my mind. You know, that's why the ritual of sitting down, you know, grandma wouldn't let you stand and eat, wouldn't let you walk through the house and eat, wouldn't let you eat in the front room. Now we thought that was all about making a mess. And I'm sure to some degree it was, but making a mess of your life Because when we take food, when we take water, that is an act of transformation magic. Let's be clear. We are now transforming what we eat into pure energy, into an energy that's usable in our body, and ultimately in our consciousness, in our head. And when we think about it that way, I don't have to do a vegan vegetarian show. When you think about it that way, it almost naturally changes how you view and think about what it is that you're eating. And listen, I know it's a holiday and some of you all are eating all kind of stuff, so I don't want to fall off too much. I don't want to interrupt, your ability to enjoy your chitlins or whatever it is that you're partaking. So I'm not going to go there too hard today. But in transformation magic, we have to consider what we're eating, what we're drinking, how we're living in the process of creating a space that our magic is going to manifest that which we need. Also, the beyond water being a tool, beyond air being a tool, earth, reconnecting to earth, putting your feet in the dirt, putting your feet in the grass. I know some of you now have snow and other elements to address that we don't necessarily have in New Orleans. It is a little nippy, so I'm not outside barefoot right now. But I try and be barefoot as much as possible. I try and connect to earth as much as possible. I try and sit with my back to a tree as much as possible. Sit on a rock. Doesn't matter where you live. I've lived in New York. I've lived in California, Los Angeles. I've lived in Chicago. I've lived in Miami. I've lived in Dallas. I've lived in St. Louis. I've lived in Milwaukee. I've lived in Denver. I've lived. So you find a way to connect and reconnect to earth. It not only grounds that which you don't need, that which has to pass through you and back into creation. Because this is reciprocal. Understand, we are requiring and asking God and nature and the Orisha and the Loa to give. But in a more indigenous understanding, we have to give as much as we're asking to be given to. We don't harvest from nature without giving back. Therefore, we can't also harvest energy without having to give back. There's a payoff. I don't care how blessed, how lucky, how much AJ, you're paying for that somewhere. There's an even exchange. And when that exchange doesn't happen, the creators find a way to get it from you. The creators find a way to take it from you. I can remember I was, 22, 23, when I finally figured that out. When I figured that out and got clarity about it and could see a rhythm, because if you're keeping a journal, you actually see a rhythm, a season. I could feel it in my bones when the shift was about to happen, when the transformation is about to happen. So we all have seasons of transformation, whether you're ready for them or not. We all have seasons of transformation. And when you learn to identify and be in tune with those seasons, then you learn to make those seasons operate for you. The last year has been tragic for some of us, have been troublesome for some of us, worrisome for some of us, cringeworthy, for some of us. But it has also been a time of transformation for others, a time of blessing for others, a time of seeing ourselves and our environment in a very new way. And that's shadow work or light work. Seeing things in a new way is not always a bad thing. Seeing things in a new way is not always a good thing. What is good is the ability to see. It's the ability to see. And then to take action on what you see. This has been a powerful time in Voodoo. It's been a powerful time in this house. And I would like to say in this audience, among some of the people in this audience, some of y'all are working it out. Okay. Some of y'all are truly working it out, you know, have created sacred space in your homes, have dedicated space to the ancestor in your homes, are beginning to learn other languages, Yoruba, Akan, Fan, are learning to apply mantras to your work. So when we call ancestors in Yoruba, Egun Mopeo Egun, we call you. You then learn to apply that to your work.
I looked for Gloom, we call you, but it either isn't available or can't be played right now.
That was my Google Nest eavesdropping on our conversation. Okay, I got to remember to unplug that thing. All these devices. So we've got to get clear. We've got to get clear in 2021. Reclaim your time, P. Anderson. Reclaim your time, beloved. Reclaim your time. Reclaim your peace. Reclaim your sanity. Reclaim your space. And particularly for those of you under the sound of my voice that are over 20, reclaim your space. Mama house too much, daddy house too much, partner's house too much. Get your own space. Get your own space. And sometimes it's a blessing to have one room that's yours, that you can close the door on. Sometimes it's a blessing to have your own house, but it's a blessing to have your own room, to have your own space that you can create peace within, and then infuse that into the work. Breathe that into the work. Empower that into your work. And then you get result-oriented voodoo. Thank you so much, S. Marie. I'm just speaking my mind right now. I'm just speaking my own peace right now. Greetings, beloved. Alicia Aro, greetings. Thank you so much for being present. I am open to your questions, your comments, your requests. You can follow the link and co-host with me right now and show up on screen. You can also use my phone number at area code 845-277-9143. Area code 845-277-9143. I'll also entertaining your questions, comments, requests there. Absolutely, Shia, baby, setting goals are essential. Setting goals are essential. It's one thing at 19 to 20 to say, I don't know what I want to major in. I don't know what, you know, what I want to do for a living. Okay, but there's another point personally where setting a goal is essential. Otherwise, we're just walking about. Otherwise, we're just wandering about. If your goal is to be happy, set that as a goal. If your goal is to be at peace, set that, make that a goal. If your goal is to be successful, is to be abundant, set that as a clear, defined goal. It's not safe. It's not wise to, I'm just waiting on it to happen. It's not wise to sit in the position of what's going to happen is going to happen and I'm just going to operate in it. I think sometimes we take that position, particularly politically, when we look at our governments. You know, I'm looking at the Brexit nonsense. I'm looking at, you know, what's going on here with our own Republican nonsense, you know, and those things can easily become a distraction. Those things can also easily put a dark matter footprint so heavy on how we envision the future. Because if we think too hard about it, you know, what could be happening? You know, are we headed to war? Are we headed to the next pandemic? You know, it could be real easy to get off track from your clarity. So setting goals are good, like Shia Baby typed in, writing them down so that you can remember, so that you can have something to look at. Some of you are putting them up on your wall or on your vision board, on your chalkboard. You know, some of you have them, you know, locked in your phone, you know, so you can remind yourself, particularly in those moments when it's easiest to forget, under stress, under distress, under duress, where it's easy to forget, you can go back and realign your energy back ultimately to your goal, understanding that all is not only a blessing, but indeed it's weather. It's temporary. There is no permanent good time. There is no permanent bad time, even for the rich, even for the highly celebrated. There's a give and take. There's an even exchange. It's built into the yin and yang philosophy. There's an even exchange. And so we must give as much light and attention to shadow work as we do to light work. Light work is okay. Light work is okay. Being grateful, showing gratitude. I offered, when you're in the mood, when you're not quite feeling up to it, write a gratitude list. Now, I know from my own experience that was almost impossible for me to do if I was depressed. If I was depressed, if I was negative, if I was in a bad way back in my youth, I couldn't do no gratitude list. It was so hard for me to sit and just, okay, I'm grateful for life. When you're in a bad way. And that's when it's shadow work. That right there is the difference. If you can do a gratitude list and it comes easy and you can breathe and you have these things that you're grateful for, that's light work. That's light work. It is shadow work when that's a difficult challenge for you to do. When you're challenging your spirit, when you're challenging your emotions, that's when the shadow work is there. And that's when you have to start asking those tougher questions, those questions that cause you to go into your feelings, to go into the crevices and the corners and the dark spaces. We hold on to things from childhood. It is said that a great deal of our development happens from birth to 5, from age 0 to 5. And then that crystallizes into who you are at 30, 40, 50, 60. I'm not even including life experience, negative and positive, between age 5 and now. But this is science. But just birth to 5, what kind of Iyanla, Mama Iyanla, likes to say, what kind of juices did you marinate in? What kind of fluids did you marinate in? During that time, while your mama was pregnant, how was she feeling? What was she going through? What was she experiencing? What was she digesting and ingesting? We all marinated in the fluids of our parents. So there's no way around family. There's no way around that when doing ancestral work in divination. There's no way around, confronting generational curses. And that's why it's so empowering for many of us, so liberating for many of us, because that stuff that we don't break through becomes our shadow work. And that's where the false blocks, the false illusions are created that keep us stuck and from moving forward. I like the Arisha, the who, what, when, and why. That's the part That's the part we overlook. That's the part nobody wants to address. They want Shango, they want Oshun, heaven forbid, they want Legba, but they're not wanting to deal with the who, what, when, and why. That's where we get into, that's too personal, that's too close, that's too much. And so, going into the 2021, and I shouldn't say that, because for me, 2021 started in, I don't know, July. I just didn't outwardly pronounce it. I just didn't outwardly admit it. But I was very conscious of it. In my mind, even now, in my mind, 2020 been gone. 2020 was gone in March when we realized it was a pandemic. For me, the year was done. Everything from that point on was about tomorrow, was about the future, was about the next day. So in my mind, I've long been into 2021. I'm already there, But in the 2021 transformation, 2020 made us sit down, made us think, made us look into the void, into the gap, into the darkness, into the light, into the empty spaces, into the cluttered spaces. 2020 made us look. But 2021 has to be about manifestation, has to be about reality. I think me and Mahogany Alchemy, me and someone else, few other people have been discussing this. It's more than just your pronouncement 2021. It's more than just your affirmations in 2021. It's everything about your demonstration in 2021. It's everything about what you bring forward. People are tired of sitting. People are tired of being isolated. People are tired of the lockdown and the shutdown and the protective measures. And so 2021 is going to be about demonstration. People are ready to do. People have to do. People must do. And the creators, remember I said this back in April, the creators are about to be rich in 2021. I'm talking about millionaires, I'm talking about real world manifestation for what they fed in 2020. Those who got to writing books, creating plays, creating products, creating new things, birthing new things. Those people will be greatly rewarded in 2021. I almost said 3031. Where am I? in this year, 2021. So transformation magic, you've got to be able to extend your imagination, if nothing else. If creating the world that you want, it's hard for you to envision, you've got to use your imagination. But just keep it real. I mean, we can't create pink elephants and black water, you know, though that will create itself in one of the 11 dimensional spaces that science has demonstrated that we exist in. Anything you can envision, anything you can imagine is already real. So even your worst nightmares, even your best dreams, it's already real. Science has demonstrated this. Math has demonstrated this. And so we live in multiple dimensional spaces, multiple universe. So in one of those spaces, your worst nightmare is already true. It's already happened. You've already lost. You've already gained. You're already stuck. And so in that creative space that we have access to as both part divinity and part humanity, as part spirit and part earth, we have a unique opportunity to create and recreate a reality that mirrors our best image. Our best image. So this is the season, more than any other season, more than any other astrology reading, any other horoscope, any other time, you know, the 2000, Y2K, you know, 2012, more than any other time, we have already passed through a window, a transformative window that will be the arbiter, the parent of our future, of what the world will look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. We just stepped into that gap right now. And one of those things, thank God, will be the power and the presence of ATR, the power and the presence of Voodoo, and all the other traditional African-based religious systems that are now standing up yet anew in this present dispensation, in this present time space. Electro vibes, absolutely, eating is a ritual unto itself. It's more than just saying a prayer before you eat, which is what most of us were taught, which is a very, you know, Christian thing, you know, and I don't have any judgment about that. But it's bigger than that. It's indeed a ritual unto itself. And so it feeds the mind, it feeds all our nutrient and energetic necessities, but it also feeds the mind and the spirit along with the body. Crystals in water, primarily clear quartz, polished clear quartz, primarily. I feel the same way about stones and water as I do yoni eggs and other vaginal tools. It's highly dangerous. If you aren't scientifically knowledgeable and educated about stones and minerals, understand that they have other minerals present in them. Some of those minerals leak easier than others, therefore could have a response on the physical body. So I don't preach it, I don't teach it openly a lot. But yeah, primarily quartz. And the truth is, it really doesn't have to be in the water to create that same level of change. It could be adjacent. It could be in the presence of. Your crystal could be on top of it. Depends on the size and the shape and the variety of stone that you have available to you. Shungite has been suggested to be a natural purifier. I posted a picture of a tourmalated quartz with shungite on my Instagram page yesterday. And shungite goes back hundreds of thousands of years in indigenous culture in terms of its ability to purify water. Um, Someone's at my door, y'all. Give me a second, okay? I'll be back momentarily. All right, I'm back, y'all. This is what that interruption was all about. Okay. I know for some, it's a big deal. For some. Um, all this is for me is a trigger. All this is, it reminds me of Christmas past and Christmases that weren't positive, that went into feeding who I am today. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the acknowledgement and the show of love. I'm still a little surprised by people who, we identify as cultural, dreadlocked, ethnic, cultural people who just can't move from church, can't move away from religion, can't move away from Western holidays and Western ways of viewing the world. And me and one of my godchildren before the show discussed this. That's not our job. My job is not to challenge your religion. My job is not to change your religion. My job is not to convert people to voodoo. That's not my job. And it's none of our job. I don't care what your religion or position is in the world. It's none of our job to do so. Our job is to be a clear, consistent, and present demonstration of what we believe, of what we understand. My job is to be true to who I am. And if that demonstration is such that others want to share, want to be a part of, want a piece of, then that's a different thing. But our job is not to sort of force our understanding, force our belief, force our way, into other people's mindsets, but to provide opportunities, solutions, when presented the opportunity. Margie, I see you, beloved. I hear you. Um, Out of respect, I'm not going to comment, okay, a whole lot. But she says she's into the clutter. She's a hoarder, and she knows that. Um, and again, I don't want to get into your business, but that I read you. I feel you. I'm there with you. You might have some shadow work. Maybe, just maybe. Yeah, this is a change year, particularly Goddess initiative for humanity. Humanity. And even more so for men. And I know that's politically incorrect to say in the world that we exist in right now. This isn't a man versus a woman thing, but I think that men in particular, from the spiritual perspective, have not had the same opportunities as women to evolve, to grow, to be emotional, to go into to their more vulnerable states of being. And so this is a season of that, particularly for men. The men who will be most successful in 2021 will be in touch with their feelings, will be in touch with their emotions, will be in touch with their own vulnerabilities. And for heterosexuals, for the married couple, for lovers, that's a great thing to have a man who is in touch emotionally with himself. That makes him that much more responsive and in touch with you. But this work, has to be done, particularly with men. We've encroached education, training, religion, skill sets, education, militarization, athleticism, but emotion, being vulnerable is something in the Western culture that has not been readily provided for men, and particularly for Black men. And so there's a shift there in that area in particular. Now, some of the symptoms is showing up in fashion. It's showing up in some of the pop cultural nuances that still sort of catch our eye. that still sort of gets some of us to, okay, what's he really saying? But we've got to prevent a continuation of men not having a safe environment to be sensitive, to be emotional, to be vulnerable, and particularly with other men. And so the fathers out there who are listening to me, you have the greatest responsibility to show emotion to your son, to be sensitive with and around your son, so that breaks the generational curse of the strong silent type. So that breaks the generational curse of, the only extension of emotion you're allowed is athletic or violent. Athletic or violent. There ain't much room else for men to be emotional, to be sensitive, to show vulnerability, to show pain in a safe way that's not used against them in destructive patterns. Greetings, Joe Mystics. Thank you so much for being a new viewer and a new participant. You typed a comment that now makes you a participant. So we greatly appreciate you, beloved, for not just being here and listening, but being willing to admit that in a public setting. Thank you so much, Jennifer Anderson. Blessings to you, beloved, a regular participant. Marge Richer, girlfriend, help me out. HB. I'm so lost with all of these acronyms, particularly coming out of the UK. I just found out what FBPE meant yesterday. Yesterday. So help me with the letters. I'm so lost with the letters. I'm from the old school of like full words and full sentences. I'm the son of a retired educator. Full words and full sentences was a requirement in my space. So I'm so lost with LOLs and the other stuff. It just throws me. I guess it's just one more language that I need to learn and adapt myself to. HNY, have no clue what that means. Okay. No clue. Now I will respond to the goddess initiatives comment. I didn't want to respond to Marge's comment directly because your suggestion about clutter read like you were okay with it, and so I don't want to judge you on it. I am going to respond to the goddess initiative. Hoarding absolutely can be trauma based. The holding on to, the not being able to throw away, um, sometimes even the need to create a sense of fulfillment sometimes shows up in hoarding. It also shows up in overeating, and weight gain, and sort of feeling secure, if not even hiding behind the weight gain. And in my ministry, I've seen that particularly with people who've been violated, molested, sexually abused, rapes, violent attacks. In my ministry, I'm not talking about anyone in the chat. I've seen that hoarding, trauma-based hoarding manifest. And so there's a comfort zone that's created with, supposedly a comfort zone that's created with all the stuff. We call it hoarding when you got so much stuff, you ain't got no comfort zone. You can't move, you can't turn around, and often you have stuff you can't remember you even had. You don't even know where in the house it is. Can absolutely be signs of trauma-based hoarding. I've never been a hoarder. Um, I have, however, held on to stuff longer than I've found most people are able to. I have stuff that I've had since kindergarten. I have stuff that my grandmama owned, or my mother owned, or my grandmother owned. And even through my years of chronic homelessness, was able to keep it. Moving from one place to another, I always managed to have a storage unit. I always managed to keep my stuff somewhere safe until I figured out my next point, my next destination in life. And then once I found my next point, my next destination in life, thank you so much, Marge. That really helps me a little bit to be able to speak freely. Even when I did find a new place, the new location to move into, the creation of sacred space was critical. And so I had my ritual. You go in and you clean the place before you start moving. You all do that, right? You do go in and clean the apartment, clean the house before you actually start bringing your stuff in there. That is the best case scenario. Physical cleaning, spiritual cleaning, ritual cleaning. And then I would bring my stuff in, with the set order. And often that order would already be predetermined in my head. Once you've gone in and seen with the space, what faces east, what faces west, what the ley lines are. Often I've already then laid out sort of a floor plan, might be a wording, before I start moving my stuff in. So you then move your stuff in. Often you put it all in one room or whatever, but then I would slowly, often with my shrines and my altars first, and then create my personal living space, which is usually smaller than my sacred space. I do that second to creation of the sacred space. And then what's not needed, what's not useful, what's not of value, gets tossed, gets given away, gets sold. And so hoarding can absolutely be trauma-based, can be an extension of, a demonstration of a clutter, a disorder that's happening from within. Disorder, things not being in order, things being out of alignment, things not quite being addressed. I'm so grateful for so many people being here on a first day of Kwanzaa, the day after Christmas. I'm grateful. And is it because it's a Saturday, or is it because it's more people home because of the holiday? But I'm just grateful. Blessings to everyone. Joe's offering blessing. Joe's mystics. Blessings to everyone, one and all. Please hit me with your questions, your comments, your requests. Area code 845-277-9143. I do have some appointments today. People are just, oh wow, the response during this pandemic has been overwhelming for ancestral work and divination, for active initiations, and for people just wanting to address very specific areas in their life. And so I'm grateful for that constant response. Email me at divineprince@houseofthedivineprince.com, divine, D-I-V-I-N-E, divineprince@houseofthedivineprince.com. Please do schedule your appointments, your visitations by email. Please. Showing up at my door is just not, oh, okay, I got you now, Marge. See, I'm, I must be too old to understand. I get it now, okay. I get it. Happy New Year. Okay, I get it now. But what if what if it's someone who speaks another language, or someone who don't have a good grasp on their grammar or their English? Wouldn't they be lost if we start just using letters? Okay. But I'm grateful for those who are absolutely doing the work right now. When TV would tell you everyone's broke, when TV would tell you that no one's employed, when TV would have you to think that, everyone's sort of in a panic right now, I'm indeed grateful for those who are stepping up and stepping forward to do spiritual work. I remember when I was out there, homeless, chronically homeless, trying to find my way, destitute. It was in those times that I would invest in crystals, mineral stones. People didn't understand that. You ain't got a pot to piss in, a window to throw out of, but you buying $100 crystal. My mama told me that at least twice in my life. You're buying a $200 crystal, what's that really all about? And indeed, if you're just shopping, if you're just eating, if you're just buying one more thing to add to your hoard, then you're not doing your shadow work. You're in denial. Then you are actively acting out in addiction, even if it's a shopping addiction. You're not doing spiritual work. But I would invest in spirit. So if I bought a crystal, it was to do the work. It was to address the necessity, it was to address the need. And when we talk about crystals, particularly in transformative work, being cut, being polished, unpolished, you notice I didn't say that today, is not as important if you're doing transformative work. Now, if you are dealing with polished stones, you don't want them to be broke up. You don't want them to be damaged. You absolutely want them to be intact, particularly if they are polished. You don't want a broken polished pyramid. You don't want to use a broken, quartz crystal ball, because that polish has now smoothed out, created a very specific vibrational frequency for the stone. So in doing transformative work, if you choose a polished stone, this is a polished stone. Its cut is probably natural. They just smoothed it out, to bring the clarity of the inside of this stone to the surface. And so in this, the ability to create and recreate, to see, to scry, which is a crystal spiritual word, S-C-R-Y, scry or scrying, the ability to look into a stone and to see vision, to see imagery, is enhanced on a polished stone. That's why there's so much light beaming off this stone right now, because of that enhanced polish on the outside of the stone. But in doing transformative work, polished stones can be a great partner because the clarity sort of removes any distractions while you utilize them in your meditation, while you utilize them in your visualization, while you utilize them in your projection, sending that vibration out into the world through the mirrors, through the light as it radiates from the stone. I am 285 days free of acquiring. thanks to COVID. well, we celebrate you, Marge. That could be a good thing. Embrace it, hold on to it, ask yourself those important questions. What have I really missed in 9 months of not shopping? What have I gained in 9 months of not shopping? You don't have to do it here, but ask yourself those questions. You know, what gives me pleasure might be a question that you really want to ask. What makes me happy is a question you might really want to ask. Because when we're shopping, because I'm a shopaholic too, so you're not the only one in the room. I'm not a hoarder, but I can be a shopaholic. I'm probably a year and a half in of not acquiring, of just focusing on my most basic elemental needs. So I celebrate you in that, but you have to ask those questions. And you weed smokers need to ask the same question, particularly if you're a weed smoker under 25. Chances are you passed the doche on the right-hand side, well, at least before COVID. You'd poke, you'd roll and smoke and pass. You'd smoke in groups. You'd smoke at the greeting. You'd smoke at the party. And there's no spirit element there. And so if you're under 25, you can absolutely develop just the addiction of just smoking and smoking too much and smoking one behind the other. And so you too might want to ask, why am I smoking? What am I trying to hide from, or what am I trying to elevate? I asked those questions probably around 30 is when I started asking those questions. And it greatly affected my smoking habit. Now it's a very minimum. I know it's an even amount. It don't go up, it don't fluctuate. It's a very even amount. Because like medicine, it's supposed to just be the medicine or just be the sacrament in Rastafari. And during the sacrament, they chant mantra, give thanks, give thanks. They chant mantra. They don't just smoke just to party. They don't just smoke just to numb out. And so some of you are smoking just to numb out, drinking just to numb out, eating too much, shopping too much just to numb out, just to not be present in the moment, just to not have to look at something specific, not have to address something specific. And so it's easy to hide behind too much, creating and recreating the reality that you don't want. I often ended up homeless because I couldn't handle my funds, couldn't handle my budget, getting my emotions, and would completely forget you got light bill, gas bill, rent, would completely forget, you know, when I was in my young 20s, you know. And so sometimes we learn, you hit the ground enough times, you know, you sort of rearrange, you know, your priorities. So when we're talking about a dis-ease, an imbalance, a disorder, like a drug, you're not always in control of that. You don't always feel in control of your spending, your shopping, your drinking, your gambling. And then, you know, you're absolutely dealing with, you know, a dis-ease, an imbalance, an addictive trait and or behavior. And the good thing about that is those things can be fixed, but you got to want to. Oh, you got to want to. And some people say you got to hit a bottom, you know, but the bottom for some people is death. The bottom for some people is going way too far. Some people don't feel no bottom. Some of y'all supernatural superheroes, and you don't feel no pain. You don't feel no bottom. You don't feel no remorse. You don't feel no regret. And so in that case, death is the bottom. But for those who are conscious, truly conscious, and can be honest with themselves, I'm great over here, but I'm not so good over there, and are willing to be honest with themselves and are willing to take a journal and keep track, those people have hope. Those people are going to be empowered. Those people will be renewed. Those people will find themselves, will find their way. And again, breathe and breathe again Drink clear water, drink clean water, eat more fruits and vegetables and grains, eat healthy, have a vision. Even in the midst of your darkness, you must have a vision in the light. If things, and use your imagination if you have to. If things were better, if things were at their best, in the best case scenario, I would be, make your list. I would have, make your list. I would be feeling, make your list. Because sometimes, we forget to make a goal. Well, what does being happy feel like? Not just look like, because again, these Christmas commercials will make you sad. Particularly these car commercials. The one. The white guy comes home and it's a car for the wife, and it's a car for him, and he thinks he bought a new truck for himself, and he bought a new car for the wife, and she chose the truck. Oh, y'all know the commercial. Now, as a professional background artist, as a SAG actor, I'm paying attention to what's going on in the background. Okay. So they're doing all their talking and the music is going on. I'm looking at the massive house that they are standing in front of. And I'm thinking to myself, how many people do we know? Black, white, American, UK, France, Britain. How many people do you know who are living in a $2 million house who got $100,000 to spend on 2 brand new vehicles just because it's Christmas? And those triggers, because they are indeed triggers, they aren't always your shadow trigger. They aren't always your negative trigger. They're designed to be triggers. For some of you, they're designed to trigger you to go out and buy. For some of you, they're designed to trigger you to keep up with the Joneses. It's another commercial where my good friend and actor that I performed with before is in this commercial. And, they're going from house to house in this commercial. And I'm sure there's some COVID mentality behind how this commercial was sort of put together. But again, we're talking about people, who are demonstrating happiness through what you have, what you own, what you possess, what you can afford to buy, for the holidays. And so people get lost in that. Your suicide hotlines, your counselor hotlines, my phone, my email is off the hook right now because these are triggers for people. And sometimes, it's meant to trigger you to shop, but it triggers you to remember. It's meant to trigger you to eat something, but it triggers you, back to something else. So if we're not clear, if we're not conscious, sometimes that means keeping a list, keeping a journal, having something you can go back and look at and remind yourself of what I'm supposed to be doing, what I'm supposed to be focusing in. This world will have you tripping. This will have you falling off. And I'm grateful for my friends and family and listeners who know and understand that about me, and who check in, who call, who text, and never once mention the word Christmas, never once mention holiday, and we move as if we move in reality. It is another day. I was getting ready to say as if it's just another day. It is just another day. It is just another day. Hello, it's just another day. It's just another day. And we give a lot of power to holidays. We give a lot of power to the great grand celebration, which is fine as long as it's in here and in here, and it's how we feel. And so in doing shadow work, Marge, I often ask, how do you feel? How does it make you feel? How does the clutter make you feel? And that's when you start getting to the root, to the source, of what might be feeding a thing. What are some crystals that I think everyone should have in their crystal toolbox? Electro Vibes, thank you. You just trying to encourage me to say more. I don't know why y'all wait till 1:30 to try to get me to say more, but it's good. Quartz crystal, number 1. Quartz crystal, number 1. I don't care what variety. I could hold up all kind of varieties: single terminated, polished, tabular, quartz cluster, which is going to have a diverse variety. Another tabby or tabular, but this is a twin. It's actually a triplet because you have a crystal here, and then you have one here, and then you have one here. And so this is a triplet, not just a twin, but a triplet. But so the variety to me doesn't matter. The variety is not quite as important as what am I going to use it for? What specific? And as I said a little earlier in the show, now we're talking about transformative magic or very specific jobs and or issues. If we're talking about personally, then something this size or smaller, depending on your size, and your weight, that's specific to you, that no one else will touch or handle. This happens to be double terminated, meaning it has a point here and another one you all cannot see that's hidden behind that silver. I designed this myself, so that's completely open in there to allow the other point to be free and not bound up in the silver. Not that silver is a bad thing. Silver is one of the best amplifiers, metallic partners for working with quartz: silver, copper, gold. They individually have separate purposes, but they all help to amplify the energy of your stone in some way. So in that toolbox, quartz, absolutely. Malachite will be another great beginning stone. Malachite, Criscola, turquoise, all from this same or similar family, similar vein. Um, Hematite might be a good demonstration. And make sure you're getting a real hematite. There's a lot of faked hematite out there on the market right now, especially as jewelry. Labradorite would be another great beginning stone to have in your toolbox. And again, not just having them, but knowing how to use them. So, you have a quartz single terminated, which does very specific things. You have a double terminated, which means it has a point at both ends. It's going to do a whole nother set of things. You have included quartz, included meaning it has another mineral included in it. This has epidolite in it, which is those dark, they're really green, but they look dark spots, epidolite in it. You might have a quartz cluster, which is like a family or a corporation or a group of powers, of spirits, of energies coming together. So electro vibes, we could just talk about quartz and spend hours just talking about each individual type of quartz. And again, it has to do with what you're doing at the time, what kind of work you're doing at the time. So ancestral work, you might want phantoms. Phantoms have almost like the rings of a tree embedded inside the quartz that stack on each other, that help to carry us back in time. Petrified wood, petrified mud, petrified items also carry us back in time. So that's something we would consider. Other minerals, other inclusions that might be present in the quartz that you're working with. Your quartz also has a certain number of windows, and depending on that number of windows, the shaping of the windows, then again, as a tool, it can be used specifically for certain, very specified task. Uh, The seasons play a role in the type of transformative work we should be doing. Yes and no. That has been sort of oversimplified, just like we oversimplify astrology to some degree in this practice, in this culture. Indeed, it matters where you are on the planet at any given time. That matters. For instance, a four-season year is not quite as realistic if you live in a place like Los Angeles or New Orleans, where we might not necessarily have a fall or a spring or even a winter, as opposed to someone who lives in Chicago or Maryland or Pennsylvania, or London, who might see more defined four seasonal experience. We also have to consider that how we view seasons, how we view the sky for that matter, has been westernized. When we talk about the winter solstice, the summer solstice, these great conjunctions, we're often not thinking universally. And again, this audience to this show is universal. I'm looking at my active map right now. There are people from all over the world in this audience right now listening to this show, from Russia, Finland, Sweden. I'm naming places you wouldn't think would be here. Norway, the UK, of course, Austria, Germany, Poland, France, Spain, Italy, Morocco, Greece, Turkey, Australia, Indonesia, Philippines, Cambodia, Vietnam. So we often oversimplify it, and I like to think, and particularly on days like the winter solstice, what is going on, what would have been going on, in Africa or in Brazil or in another part, of the world. And so it requires us being able to use our imagination a little bit. So the seasons don't necessarily matter from that perspective. Now, localized, seasons are absolutely going to affect your demonstration. I know in Chicago, I had to, change up what I do and how I do it, just to survive the winter. So you might not get a whole lot of sunlight in the winter. You got to make allowances for that. I may not have been able to go out to the lakefront, to the tree, to the park as much, in a blizzard. So I would have to consider that. There is a trend to do more shadow work in the winter, and I think that has to do with the lack of vitamin D, the lack of sunlight, people being closed in more in the winter than we normally would be in the summer. And so Ujat Wujat, Ujo Wujat, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm expecting and I'm already seeing more shadow work being done this winter in particular, because we've already gone through so many months of altered state of awareness by way of COVID-19. So the winter does invoke more shadow work in this part of the world, in this hemisphere. I don't necessarily think that would be the case in South Africa. We would have to look at a South African winter, which happens in the middle of our summer. So we have to think more universally, I think, when we think about astrology, astronomy, and even the weather and how we interact and operate, in the seasons. From a symbolic representation, spring, summer, winter, fall, looks good. It fits well. We even apply that to age. If you're of a certain age, you're in the spring of your life. If you're 20 something, you're in the summer of your life. You're 60 or 70, you're in the fall of your life. You're in 80, 90, we have all these Western ways of applying symbolism and looking at symbolism that I think greatly affect how we as practitioners then apply this knowledge, if we're indeed not more universally aware. So that's a great question. How I do winters here in New Orleans is absolutely not how I did winters, in Milwaukee or in Chicago. How I did holidays in LA, for instance. When I lived in LA, it didn't rain. We didn't have all the rainy, and it was very dry. It was very hot, and December was like 80 degrees when I lived in LA. So it affected what I did, how I functioned, how I focused my energy during the seasons. And your crystals, minerals, and stones can help to bring balance to your endeavor, to your transformative work, no matter what the season is. Remember, they have been around through every season, through the climate change, through Earth, catastrophic changes. Your crystals have absorbed that, and have survived that, and have implanted that vibration somewhere in its body. So it knows how to assist us in catastrophic weather, in sudden change and transformation, in global climate change, which does affect us as humans. Greetings, beloved. Welcome to all my new people, my new listeners, and of course, my regulars, like the beloved Tasha's Touch, Earth Angel Bree. Greetings, beloved. I don't think I've seen your face before. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. We certainly appreciate you, as well as your questions, comments, and requests. Yeah, electro vibes. We have to check our medicine habit. We do. Even those of us who might partake in the greens tree, you have to be clear about why you're doing something. Just as much as you should be aware of, I'm a diabetic. So let's use that as an example. I'm a diabetic. I use a great deal of herbs and plants and roots that have been shown to be miraculous. Some of my close friends and clients can attest to that. Will drop my sugar so low, sometimes I wake up it's 80, which is really low. So we can eat our way to a better health, but we also have to be willing to think our way into better health. So for me, I have to be conscious of how much sugar is in that. And often we wait until the problem. So diabetes is the problem, is the outcome of some kind of symptomatic condition that existed long before you knew you had diabetes, long before you confront what the issue is. And so that can show up not just in, smoking trees. It can show up in how much you eat, what you eat, how much alcohol you drink, how much water you drink or don't drink. And that indeed is shadow work. That's shadow work. So if you're maturing, a mature person has to get to a certain age and ask, am I smoking too much? Should I be smoking? Is it affecting my life in any positive or negative ways? And so there's the position of you all who, have jobs where you got to pee in a cup. So that's one more factor that comes in and having to recheck your habit. But for those who are self-employed, who are self-created, self-made, who might not have to pee in a cup, who feel like, you're 30 or more or over, and so you ain't got to answer to nobody, but you got to answer to yourself. And so to what degree does your habit build you up or break you down? To what degree does your habit affect your output, your outcome? I've heard everything from memory to none of which, was true in my case. But then I have real mental health issues going on. I have Asperger's syndrome. And so just maybe my medication, self-medication, is in unique balance with my condition. But you got to be willing to get honest, as Electro Vibes is suggesting. You have to be willing to get honest with yourself about why you're doing a certain thing, how much of a thing you're doing. Is it affecting your money? Are you going to the pawn shop to do it? You have to be mature enough to self-address, and when you can't see it, but it might leak from mama or papa or your best friend, you got to be willing to hear. And some of us are too grown to hear. Some of y'all too grown to hear. Some of y'all too grown to be taught. Some of y'all are too grown to have a mentor. Some of y'all too grown for godparents. You already know. So what's for me to say? I'm quiet. You know, some of y'all are like, well, I sent you emails and I never got a response. Well, your email suggests that you got it. Your email suggests that you know it better than me. You in control of this thing. So what you need me for? And why would I step into that? So we got to be willing to be honest, to get honest about what we have, what we don't have, what we need, and how to build that and move that forward into the future. 2021 into the future. Yeah, there are all kind of triggers that show up, you know, on these specified special holidays that can really get stuck in your craw and can really affect people, you know, depending on where you are. Some of y'all are going into so much debt, you know, because you want your children to have a holiday and not feel it was affected by the COVID. Some of you all are setting yourselves up for a really bad time, January through June. Some of y'all not going to pay off your credit card bills, if at all, until October of next year. Only so you can use them again next year. And so we've got to, oh, wow, we've got to. Thank you so much, Tangerine Bliss, because you just confirmed something that I never said, but was absolutely a part of my intention, was to emit something more calming, more transformative, more spiritual into the show. I just didn't want to be hyped up again today. I didn't want to be angry. I didn't want to be combative. I didn't want to address, you know, the wannabes, which is at an all-time high right now on Instagram. That's a whole nother conversation. They come in now. They're not Ian Nefas and Babalaos. Now they're coming as other forms of spirit practitioner. And one of the ways to know them is, you know, they got 100 followers or less, but they following 3,000 people. And then they have 0 posts or a dozen posts or less, all fake profiles, again, transforming themselves to meet the new need. And now in this season of COVID, there's a new need, a new sense of urgency, a new sense of demand that they're stepping up to present themselves to fulfill. And the reality is there's no way around the shadow work. There's no way around the work. Do the homework. Light work, shadow work, homework. Those 3 works go together. Those 3 words go together. Light work, shadow work, it's all homework. And we have to do the homework. Thank you so much, Tangerine Bliss. I certainly appreciate you. Malachite, quartz, quartz, turquoise, hematite, labradorite. Absolutely. Thank you so much for typing that out for me. Some of the cluster is protective cluster. Some of it is because the cluster holds potential. Okay, now Marge, forgive me. Okay, I don't. You know, there's some popular shows on cable networks here in the U.S. right now that all are streaming through my mind, and one of them in particular is called Hoarders, by the way. And I don't want to turn this into a therapy session for Marge, but I could use this for this. That's a part of the problem when it comes back to hoarding. Because you'll go through, you know, an attempt to clean and oh, but I can sell this, I can clean this up. Okay, but you haven't. And if it's been there 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, a year, you haven't. You haven't. And now it's taking up space. And that space that's being occupied, you know, fulfills another spiritual role. It might be freedom, it might be liberation. It might be creativity. It might be love. You're absolutely blocking inroads to something else by holding on to the clutter over here. Protective also sounds therapeutic, sounds, again, like we're speaking to someone who's been violated, particularly as a younger woman, maybe even as a young girl, who feels that need to cover and to protect. Take a martial art class if you're healthy enough. Take a gun class if you're healthy enough. Learn to protect yourself as a woman. Give yourself activities that empower your sense of control over your own security. And that too will lessen the need to fill sort of that space, you know, and filling that space with clutter might also be preventing others from coming in. And again, I don't want to get too personal with you live on air, but friends, family, your children, you know, it's someone, something that you're also trying to prevent, maybe not consciously, but trying to prevent from occupying your intimate space. And so you got all this stuff. I know some hoarders whose children, grandchildren can't come to the house because of the state of the hoarding. We had an example right here in my neighborhood. They have moved, the family has moved, and the house has since been addressed. But the grandbabies couldn't come, not in the house. They could play out in front of the house, you know, and then that became problematic. The yard was a mess, you know, everything was a mess. So I don't want to judge or prejudge because I don't know where you live. You know, I haven't seen where you live. I'm just going on what you're sharing with us, what you've been, you know, good enough to share with us. And so you got all kind of trigger words for me: protective cluster, you know, holds potential cluster. And it's sort of like putting two words together that don't really match. Cluster and something that's potentially useful. That's not cluster. I have some copy paper. I have extra copy paper. That's not cluster. That's not cluster. But if I got a 18-wheeler full of copy paper that's now dirty and bent up and the packaging is coming apart, and you know, I can't move anything else, now that might be cluster, and that could be problematic. And particularly for somebody who might not ever use that copy paper, you know. So there are many issues that come into play. I would never want to crush people's sense of hope. So in the idea of potential, absolutely have some potential vision in your mind for a better future, a better way of being, a better way of living, but find a way to sever potential from how you use the word cluster. If it's cluster, it's cluster. If it's trash, it's trash. Now you have this new word, not recycling, but upcycling, where you take what would otherwise be trash and create brand new usable things with a new usable value. And so that's a way of being creative, taking that word potential and applying it in a way that's more healthy. Greetings, beloved Oracle Treehouse. Thank you so much for being
90
present.
seconds.
Listen, y'all, it's been a great 2 hours. Blog Talk Radio is giving me the countdown. So if you're not on the phone already, it's too late to get on the phone. And I appreciate those of you who are on the phone, who are listening to the show. I certainly appreciate those of you who are going to listen to the show in archive. Electro Vibes, Amethyst is said to have the highest vibrational rate. It's also said to be the sobriety stone. So Amethyst has been known for thousands of years by humanity as bringing a sobriety element. Again, preventing, lessening, you know, the need for, the desire for hoarding, for drinking, for gambling, for spending, for whatever the addictive thing might be. Amethyst is also great for elevating vibration, bringing any and all vibrations up to a higher level. Again, that sobriety element is there, but elevation of energy is also present when we're looking at amethyst. I find amethyst to work best when it's not paid attention to, when everybody's not informed about it, when it's just a piece of the
10
furnishings,
seconds.
when it's just on your desk in the office, or just in the middle of the house, but not in a place where people can sort of handle it or damage it. I find that amethyst then works the best. You want to charge it, you want to fuel it with intention before you set it into position. Amethysts make great generator stones, particularly amethyst clusters. It's very rare to find amethyst terminators, single terminators. They don't quite grow like quartz. So they tend to be a little bit more compact. I don't know where I put my amethyst right now. I had one close to me recently, and as usual, now I can't find it. And the one that I do have is not exactly the one I wanted to show you. This is one that has been polished and shaped. I call this Miss Pac-Man. This is Amethyst Cluster. And of course that, is a kind of unusual configuration. And that's one of the reasons why I'm sure the artist polished this in this manner into a ball. But cluster, amethyst tends to grow in clusters. Really, contact defined clusters. So they work great as generators. This Miss Pac-Man, just as the name suggests, eats up all of that toxic, negative, unuseful, unwanted energy and transmutes it to a higher plane, a higher vibratory rate. And this amethyst is closer to lavender in color. It's not quite as vibrant as this amethyst. And so when you're doing personal work, transformative work, you often want the deeper purple amethyst, the better. That's also going to affect the price. The deeper purple your amethyst is, the higher the price is going to be. And if it has any kind of unique configurations, like this has this frost, this quartz druce in it, which looks like snow, that amplifies the price. That Miss Pac-Man shape amplifies the price when you're talking about amethyst. You can also find amethyst in the dollar basket at many shops. It's going to be loose, it's going to be small, it might be clusters, it might be 2 or 3 points stuck together, and it's typically going to have a very light lavender, light color. And that doesn't make it not useful. It's still quartz. It's just not giving you the strong amethyst energy that someone might seek. So amethyst elevates all energy, raises it to a higher level, of course, creates sobriety. So I use it a great deal in my work. When you call me for a reading, it's always at least 2 pieces of amethyst right in my face, even if you can't see it. Now here of late, I've been doing Skype, and so I have a little setup here and people can actually see what I might be working with at any given time. But amethyst is a master stone. It does take some growing into. You'll often bond with and work with many other stones before you get to amethyst level work. A great book, an old book, one might consider. It's a crystal book. Give me a second here. Forgive me on my Blog Talk Radio archive, but my viewers can see me when I walk away. Great book, Christina Raphael, Crystal Enlightenment. And this is going to give you the basics about amethyst, about several varieties of quartz, how crystals are formed, how crystals are mined, She'll talk a little bit about crystals being used in jewelry. But then she'll get into what I call the heavy stuff, remedies, healing work with the stones. And so she's going to talk about general layouts, basic chakra layouts. She's going to talk about clear quartz, generator quartz, cluster quartz, double terminated quartz, large generator crystals, tabular crystals, record keepers, teacher crystals, rainbow crystals, phantom crystals, light box crystals. And she'll talk about amethyst, rose quartz, citron, smoky quartz, black obsidian, gem silica, fluorite, kunzite, rhodochrosite, sugarlite, tourmaline, black tourmaline, green tourmaline, pink tourmaline, tri and multicolored tourmaline like watermelon tourmaline. She talks about amber, which is not a mineral but a tree sap, a petrified tree sap, amber. She'll talk about azurite, bloodstone, cornelian, lapis, malachite, malachite azurite, malachite criscola, moonstone, peridot, selenite, sodalite, and that's just in Crystal Enlightenment by Katrina Raphael. Crystal Enlightenment by Katrina Raphael. Swear by this book. And it's one of a series of books. So the second book, Crystal Healing, The Therapeutic Application of Crystals and Stones by Christina Raphael. Second book in the series. And it's going to take you a little step further with preparing the environment. We talk about creating sacred space. It talks about present time consciousness. You know, we got this thing with the past, the present, and the future existing right now, and multi-leveled, multi-dimensional realities. She talks about the power of breath, center line focus, stone placement, protection, and guidance. And then she gets into things like soul connections, soul symbols, altered vision, third eye awakeners, body overview, creating bubbles of protection, setting the stage, taking care of the inner child, which is shadow work, emotional release. All these words were her way of not saying shadow work. And at the time that Katrina Raphael wrote these books, shadow work wasn't a word, it wasn't a phraseology that you heard, but that's what shadow work is: past, present, life, future therapy. Doing more intimate, more personal work, time reversal, pre-birth purpose, which means using your imagination to go back into the womb before you were born and to envision, attempt to relive that process. That's shadow work. Exercising, like The Exorcist, exercising things that are not negative, releasing negative energies. And in this book, in terms of stones, she talks about laser wands, garnet, green aventurine, green calcite, gold calcite, tiger eye, tiger iron, hawk's eye, Herkimer diamonds, opal, blue tourmaline, and of course, more healing therapeutic processes. Crystal Healing by Katrina Raphael. And the second book is The Therapeutic Application of Crystals and Stones. She has a third book, but I don't have it handy. I'm not sure it's even in the room. It may be on the other side of the house. Yeah, I don't have it right now. Okay, and another book is, and this is a little older, and this is by a completely different authorship. This is Randall Baer, B-A-E-R, Randall and Vicki Baer. I believe this book goes back to, if not the 70s, the 80s. 1987, I believe. Yeah, this book goes back to 1987. And it's called The Crystal Connection, a guidebook for personal and planetary ascension. Crystal Connection, a guidebook for personal and planetary ascension. And it's written by Randall and Vicky Baer, authors of Windows of Light, Quartz Crystals and Self-Transformation. And I like this book because now it is a little bit more textbook-like. There's some pictures, but not a whole lot in this book. And it definitely goes more into seeking the kingdom, seeking the keys to the kingdom. And all these things shall be added unto you. And so, how to use your quartz to do more intimate work. Crystalline wholeness, facets of infinitude, the universal energy network. Because if you don't understand that we and the planet and the universe exist in a universal energy network by which we pull from, then you'll never get past wearing crystal jewelry. You'll never get past, the basics, and as opposed to getting into the real work. I'm not opposed to jewelry. You all know I love my jewelry, but if I'm talking about healing tools, then I'm looking at more than just this. Now, the tiger eye is great. This copal amber is great. The bone is great. It has its purpose, particularly when it's polished like this. This is so warm right now to the touch, and it has absorbed my energy, and it imparts its energy unto us. But the mind activation, doing the mental homework while you are wearing and using these stones, is where the power lies. Can they help you if you aren't aware? Yes. Can they help you if you don't think about the details? Yes. Almost like a good luck charm, almost like your rabbit foot, your lucky piece. But many of you in this room claim to want greater levels of empowerment, greater levels of control of your spirit energy. So you've got to be willing to do that mental work. So amethyst is also great, beloved, for cleansing and purifying and elevating the energy level of all my other minerals and stones. So I use them to also cleanse the other stone with. Thank you so much, you all, for being present. I'm going to go get some water and some lunch momentarily. I am so honored that so many of you are present and are doing the work. And I look forward to doing more ancestral work and divination, more head work, more Ori work, more Lavetet work with many of you as you continue to come into yourself, come into your awareness of your spiritual power. Yeah, we're shut in and forced to face the shadow work. You run out of things to do. You run out of things to occupy your time. Some of you have more time to daydream, more time to think. And yet that shadow work is absolutely coming to the surface right now during this time of unfortunate pandemic. I know I'm a little behind in my chat. Alberta, Canada. Okay, Marge, Richard, thank you so much, beloved. I don't know if we've ever had an admitted Canadian listener, so I appreciate you doing that. Yes, love Chicago. So many spiritual things to do in Chicago, Ujet. I don't know if it was you, but I suggested someone go to the Botanica. You got one at the Lincoln Zoo, right downtown, and you got one on the west side. Go to the Botanicas. It's like being in Jamaica. It's like being somewhere warm and tropical, in the middle of Chicago with all this weather going on. That's great. Yeah, that Chicago hawk will keep you indoors. It'll limit your travel. You will absolutely think about what you got to do before you do it. And she says we need to pay more attention to the universal aspects of the season as well. Absolutely. Absolutely. If we look at ourselves as a combined unit, as one body, we are indeed this planet flying through space at an elevated speed. Shamafia, greetings, beloved. So we have been separated from our true reality. We are separated from our true selves. Greetings, Malik Young. Welcome, beloved. Yeah, now, how old are you, Malik? Now, you look young in your picture. And that's why I said people who are like 25 and younger, I don't necessarily support or suggest that, they be given free access to marijuana without diagnosis, without close observation, from your doctor, a physician, a family practitioner, a spiritualist, your parent, a therapist, so that because you're still developing under 25, especially males. Your frontal cortex is not even completely developed until you're 25. And so that affects our ability to feel and to relate our feelings and emotions at a much deeper way. Um, I noticed you use the word addiction. So I give you honor and respect for standing in your own truth. A person knows when they're addicted to something. And so I appreciate your usage of that word. So you got to get clear about why you smoke. Get clear about when you smoke. When do you smoke and what makes you want to smoke? And one of the best ways to find that out is to abstain, to go without smoking. People say, oh, I can stop drinking. I just drink because I like it. Oh, I can stop smoking. I just smoke because I like it. Okay, so stop. As a spiritual person, for 30 days, just stop. And I did this more than once in my 20s. I would stop 30 days, 90 days, look at my life, take note of my life. And sometimes I would go back. Sometimes I would not. But you got to get clear about why. And that's where that word addiction comes in. If you don't know why, if you're not clear about why, if you're not in control of why, you're probably operating under an addiction. Thank you, Earth Angel Bree. She's been subscribed for some time, but this is her first time catching me live. Thank you so much, beloved. I appreciate you. Is it because it's a Saturday show? Does that make it easier for you to catch me, or is it because it's the holidays that made it easier? One of our beloved co-hosts, Hoodoo Occultism, has been telling me I need to do weekend shows for months now, since before the pandemic clicked in. So I'm here. It's a Saturday. My mailbox is overflowing with requests for readings and ancestral work and divination and consultation. So I'm doing the right thing as Spirit would have. And I invite you to send your request by email, divineprince@houseofthedivineprince.com. Thank you so much, Electro Vibes. I appreciate that. Ariana, yes, some of the weed has definitely been manipulated to affect the hormones. Some of the weed, and particularly, designer weed. A lot of that California weed y'all are getting is designer weed. It's being manifested in, grow houses and whatnot for certain qualities. For those who are still Reggie participants, Reggie, regular, I don't need that high price, just regular. There haven't been a whole lot of changes there. The weed is absolutely stronger than the 1970s, stronger than the 1940s, because like all plants, your corn, your wheat, your sugarcane, it has been manufactured intentionally for strength, for endurance, for longevity. I'm not necessarily in agreement that it has been, designed to sort of affect, our hormones to some darker end. I'm not quite a conspiracy theorist. To my new listeners, I find truth where it is, but I'm not necessarily a conspiracy theorist. So I'm a little pensive about hormones and the effeminization of the Black man, and I think those are a bit overdone. I do think that there's a problem with a generation growing up on box cereal. I do think there's a problem with generations growing up on cow's milk and not the breast milk. I do think that there's a definite change in terms of technology and what a growing, developing child might be exposed to and experience now, as opposed to my generation or someone younger who didn't have microwaves, who didn't have TV, who didn't have internet. So each generation, I think, is confronted with a new set of things. And from that, certain conspiracy theories are then born. Yeah, they're playing and manipulating and with strands and creating commercial outcomes. Yeah, the medical marijuana is not natural. Yeah, the levels of THC are not 80 and 90% in unmodified weed. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so your medical marijuana, again, is being manufactured to reach an end. Your commercial designer weed is being manufactured to reach an end. You know, we've been convinced of its medicinal properties. So, you know, they're trying to uplift on one end and bring down another, you know, and that definitely has produced outcomes that natural, organic, regular marijuana users don't really experience. And I know regular, you know, marijuana users who smoke every day, several times a day, living sort of like some of y'all smoke cigarettes, live a normal, regular life, doesn't have any of the fluctuations. Also, we got to warn against artificial weed. Absolutely. You know, these packaged mojo and all that stuff is liquid crack sprayed on, you know, otherwise weak strands of plant life and organic life. And that indeed will kill you, have you eating your friends face off, have you doing really crazy things. Yeah, so you know, all the queens are always on point. In the chat room, the goddesses are always on point about manipulated anything, manipulated produce, manipulated food stock. We have to be careful about manipulation of anything that we are taking into our bodies. Yeah, I hear you, P. Anderson, about the IG. I'm so behind in my chat. She put her IG back on private because there's so many people that just creep up in your DMs. Thank you so much, Caribbean Grimoire. I've actually been talking for like 2 hours and 20 minutes. So you have to forgive me, Caribbean. We've talked about a lot of things. We've covered some deep topics. So when you have a chance, please go back in the archive and listen to or watch the first part of the show. Thank you so much. Many people remember me having locks. I had really long dreadlocks down to my waist. Some people have turned their backs on me just for cutting my hair. And of course, that's a cultural, religious prejudice. That's their issue and not my issue. Like what's her name? India Ari, I am not my hair. My ministry has actually grown in the time since I cut my hair. Every now and then I think about my hair. I actually still have my hair, by the way. I think about redreading. You know, I could have the same length of dreads by 65. I could really have the same length of hair if I just decided that I wanted to. But it just takes so much work, so much work. And in terms of performance and acting, it can lessen your flexibility in terms of roles and characters that Hollywood and Hollywood South are willing to cast you in. And so that's my thing with the dreadlocks. Yeah, amethyst is considered a sobriety stone for sure, and can aid in educational pursuits, study, of course, meditation, transcendental meditation. Martial arts is a form of meditation for the physical body, just like walking or biking can be a meditation, a form of meditation for the physical body. Let's see, I'm trying to clear out my chat before I end the show. I want to make sure I haven't missed any of you in your greetings and your holiday wishes, and of course your questions and comments. You can charge a crystal with any type of mantra for specific purposes, because in that case, it's the voice and the vibration that's being recorded. That's a blessing. So that may also suggest, Electro Vibes, that this is a time. You're at the place in your journey where you might need amethyst and more awareness about amethyst. You lost me with the text message. By all means, email me. Yeah, Katrina Raphael. By all means, email me. The best way, the easiest way, the most efficient way, the most expedient way to reach me is by email. divineprince@houseofthedivineprince.com. Thank you, Jenny A. Thank you so much, beloved. Often I am way too busy to answer the phone. I'm either in the middle of a reading, in the middle of a consultation, in the middle of a chat reading. Some of you all see my light come on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. I might actually be involved in some other sequence of events. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm just there to hang out and socialize. And of course, there are applications that, assist in posting. I know some people that post all day, all night, 5 times an hour. It ain't them. They have a program, some sort of program or application that's assisting them, to post and to appear to be available online. And some good business owners are doing that. Okay, I don't know quite what that means, Ariana, but okay. Only people with a lot of bills have a good reason to smoke. But I like the sound of that. If it's going to keep, 15-year-olds from wanting to jump right in. I don't necessarily think, 15, 16, 17-year-olds really should be smoking weed. I don't think they should be penalized for it, but I don't think they should. You're not fully developed then, and you're probably smoking for recreation. Okay, thank you so much. So having weekend shows is better for many of you. Thank you, Dee Dee Miller. Grateful for your presence. I would certainly appreciate you all. I don't celebrate Christmas. I don't have a holiday. Someone just dropped off a Christmas stocking, and I was so thrilled. Merlene dropped it off. I'm here to do the work. I'm here to do the ministry. What would help me right now is support. What would help me right now is your donations, is your offerings by way of my PayPal.me/The Divine Prince. What would help me is for people to get their work done, is to stop procrastinating on your readings, stop procrastinating on your initiations, stop procrastinating on your ancestral work and divination. Another point of discussion today has been community. And my desire is a brick and mortar spiritual building, spiritual temple for Voodoo, for Ifa, for a Khan. And I can't do that by myself. I can't do that without priests and priestess, practitioners, healers. I put out a call earlier in the pandemic for applicants, qualified applicants. I run a little bit of a test. Some of y'all not even here no more. Remember the friendly white girl who used to pop in every day? What happened to her? I can't remember her name. What happened to her? I got your email about you wanting to be a practitioner in the Temple House. Where's the demonstration? Where's the demonstration? So I gave you all time to go back and let me look at their social media and let me see what they posting and let me see what they doing. And Let me see what they're talking about every day. And some of you disqualified yourself. Some of you went into Twitter not even 5 days later and started talking about your vaginal areas and your penis areas and your anus areas and all kind of just craziness. But you want to be a serious healer. You want to be taken seriously as a healer, seriously as a reader. You say, oh, I'm just a tarot card reader, but you're reading serious stuff. Love and relationships, marriages, divorces, childbirths, serious stuff. Single parented households, serious stuff. How do you get through a cheap 5-minute tarot reading and not cross a bridge of serious stuff? So yeah, who you are absolutely matters. What your demonstration is when you're not looking absolutely matters. It matters for anybody in ministry. And reading is a part of ministry. Tarot is a part of ministry if you're operating in it from its most authentic perspective. If you're just a fortune teller, if you're just out there to grab the next buck from somebody, then you don't care. You don't care what happens once they hang up the phone. You don't care what happens once they leave your table. And you all often aren't available if something do happen for them to come back to. All my clients know where to find me. All my clients can point to me on a map, on Google Maps. All my clients can show up at my door and knock if they choose, and many have. But a lot of your fortune tellers, your psychic readers, they ain't got that kind of personal connection to you because they don't care. And when you're doing the shadow work, the hard work, the deep work, where they at? I'm here 24 hours a day and got the phone contacts to prove it. You got the email contacts to prove it. And you all don't care how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, if I had turkey or not, if I had the beautiful ham for the house. Y'all don't care. Y'all just want your love and your relationship fixed. Y'all just want your career fixed. Y'all just want your financial situation fixed. You know, you all just want the next shortcut to being a reader, to doing what you think is popular. And oh God, you all have no idea the amount of work that go into this. The amount of time that's going to be taken from your spouse, your lover, your kids, while you focus in on doing this work. And some of you readers have backed off of doing readings for that reason. You got into it. You realize how much is involved in it. You realize the degree of what kind of energy people were bringing to your table. That has to be dealt with. Physically, it'd be all in my body. Damn right, I got to watch what I eat, how I cleanse, take spiritual baths every day. Damn right. And do my own shadow work, because your shadow work provokes my shadow work. That's just the way it works. I've had a moment with a client or two. I've had a moment. And so everybody's shadow work is triggered when people are in denial of their shadow work. So we got to keep it natural. We got to keep it real. Let's be real authentic in 21. Let's be real truthful in 2021. Let's drink more water. Let's eat more fruits and vegetables. Oh, okay, Electro Vibes. Thank you, beloved. You know, I get lost sometimes between my conversation and in the chat. Dee Dee Miller says someone left a voodoo doll on her porch. Is it common for someone to do that is trying to put something on you? It's common, but not necessarily common for people who are trying to root you. It would be common for people who believe themselves to be practitioners. Now, you got some wannabe hater, wannabe practitioner who left that on your porch, who for whatever reason might believe you to be the wannabe practitioner. And so there's some kind of conflict-based magic going on. It could definitely be the other woman. But yeah, typically if someone's trying to work you, they don't know enough about dolls to even think about it. Yeah, accuracy and accountability. Our key idea is something that I have that many of these practitioners, Instagram practitioners, don't have and aren't willing to even produce. You know, the next Babalawo that jump in there, ask them where they live exactly. And if they're truthful and they say, oh, Ghana, Nigeria, pull up your Google map, ask them what town. And then look on your Google map and find a landmark. I do this every day. And find a landmark, the nearest church, the nearest store. Find that on your map. How far you live from Royal Baptist Church in West Nigeria? You know, I just made up something. If they don't hang up on you, they certainly are going to be thrilled, and the jig is up. A lot of these internet practitioners ain't trying to be found, ain't trying to be located, ain't trying to have a track record that's easily pulled to the forefront. They just want your money, your time, your energy. They ain't did no documentaries. They ain't did no public demonstrations of their voodoo. I take PBS very seriously. I take Nat Geo very seriously. I take the Travel Channel very seriously. Listen, I love American Horror Story. It will forever be a bright spot in my resume. But that's entertainment. That's entertainment. It's not the same thing as documenting truth, facts, science. Not the same thing. So yeah, that kitchen gets hot and they jump out. And I've had a few truthful ones come back to me and say, you know, I was your godchild and things got ahead of me and I started doing, I've had some that came back to me, you know, apologized for their behavior and shared some of their present experience. Some of the, you know, clients can be dramatic. They're going to bring the worst case scenario to you to fix for the cheapest amount of money and in the shortest period of time. So that means readers and public readers and spiritualists collect a lot of energy. A lot of energy. People's hopes, people's dreams, people's fictions, people's fantasies, people's misunderstandings about what tarot is or what voodoo is. Yeah, it can be a lot. And it goes into your body. It goes into your life. It shows up all around the cracks and the crevices of your reality. And so you got to be conscious of it. And you got to be willing to do the work. Willing to do the work. I certainly appreciate you. I love you all. I have some appointments here shortly. So I absolutely have to get something to drink and something to eat before I move forward. Know that I am here for you, particularly right now, particularly during this challenging time. Things are challenging and will continue to be so. The pumpkin ain't gone yet. Chucky ain't gone yet. He's still in office. So we still got another month to deal with this, and then we got to correct and balance. So there's going to be a lot of drama. People are already under a lot of pressure. Know that I am here for you 24 hours a day. Just know that I got rules. I got protocols. I'm going to acknowledge and honor the divinity that exists in me. I want to ask you to do the same. I got rules. Email me, divineprince@houseofthedivineprince.com. I get a lot of comments about my email. My email is fine. I get way too many emails a day for my email not to work and I not know about it. So check your spelling. If you're copying and pasting, make sure you ain't got empty space at the end of the address or before the address. divineprince@houseofthedivineprince.com. And if you can't find, go to my website, www.houseofthedivineprince.com. My face is there. You know you got me. There's a contact button right there, which actually translates into an email. It'll send me an email, and you know you got me. I've seen all of it. Okay, I've heard it all. I've seen it all. I know the tricks. I've tried to email. I tried to email you. I had no choice but to knock on your door. And then I answer the door and I make it real clear, beloved, I'm in the middle of a show. I'm in the middle of, I can't talk to you now. You got to email. 2 minutes later, I got an email. 5 minutes later, I got an email with no problem. So listen, I hear, oh, I can't email you. There's a problem. It's on your end, not mine. And if it's on my end, I've been warned and I'm already actively trying to fix it. If there was indeed a problem with my website or my email, but it's not. It's not. People just think they can avoid that. I'm gonna make this detour, this shortcut, and maybe he'll see me. I can't. I just can't. My schedule won't allow it. My body humanly won't allow it. You got to email me, divineprince@houseofthedivineprince.com. If you call and you call and you call and you call and you call, and then that one time I answer the phone, I'm gonna tell you, I can't talk to you. I'm busy right now. I answered the phone because I thought my client was on the other line. You're gonna have to email me. That's always gonna be the response. It's always gonna be the response. You can't be on TV, on Travel Channel, Nat Geo, PBS, and not expect that I'm overwhelmed with requests and people wanting to read and people that are curious and people that want tours. And so we asked you if you want a tour. If you're coming in and you want a tour plus a voodoo experience, go to Denise Augustine. Go to www.oursacredstories.com. oursacredstories.com. If you want voodoo, result-oriented voodoo, you come to me. www.houseofthedivineprince.com. I'm grateful for you. I'm truly honored. I'm truly honored. Nothing gives me a more fulfilling, satisfactory emotion than knowing that people are truly doing this work, that people are indeed getting away from those institutions that we've been locked into for so long, and that we're now escaping oppression, that we're now escaping. I'm trying to read and talk at the same time, that we're now escaping the system. I appreciate you all. I certainly do. I look forward to being here with you again for another revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Please send me your email requests, divineprince@houseofthedivineprince.com. Right now, in the middle of Kwanzaa, in the middle of the holiday season, with all this uncertainty in the air, this is the time to move forward on your work. This is the time to take your work more seriously. What do you plan to repeat in 21? What do you anticipate for 21? What do you want to be your reality for 21? And what do you plan to do about it today? All is truly and indeed a blessing. If you can just see beyond the veil, it's all just an illusion and a test and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo. Until next time.